Okay. Hi, this is Pastor Paul Walters. Welcome to Celebrity Interviews with Paul. Today's celebrity is Don Stacks. Don is a longtime Lutheran Church of the Master member and a non-commercial sales manager for Gordon Foods. Welcome, Don.
Thank you, Pastor. How you doing today? It's good to
This
see you.
is wonderful. Beautiful day outside. Um, you're a non-commercial sales manager at Gordon Foods. What does that mean? What do you do? What are your responsibilities?
Yeah, I get some puzzled looks when people ask me that question. And so I manage our healthcare and education teams in both Southeast Michigan, the Flint Saginaw market, and then if you drew a line from Bay City all the way down I-69, all the way to the Michigan border, and then everything east of that. So that's the geography me and my team cover, and we take care of everything in the healthcare segment and everything in the education segment, including daycares up to colleges and universities.
So that's finding food resources in like bulk, in a kind of a bulk format, primarily to colleges, schools, universities, hospitals, those kind of things.
Yeah, food service distribution, everything they need, and in some cases, we're a one-stop shop for most of our customers. They don't really need anybody else because we have everything they need. It's
Right.
been a little more problematic during this pandemic, but
Yeah.
we're
Well,
getting through it.
well, we'll talk about that. I wanted to know first, though, how's stuff at home for you and your wife Cindy? How's the pandemic treating you?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're about, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years or so away from retirement. Maybe not quite that long. Who knows? And it's been a good trial run. I think Cindy has said that to me on multiple occasions. That wow, I think we can do this retirement thing together
Okay.
because I've been working. I have not been in my office since March 12th,
Okay.
and she has been. She had to 1 day a week. She had to go in, and now for the last for starting this week, she has to go back to the 3 day a week schedule. But so we've been together quite a bit, and we're used to that vacation together and all that. So we've done well, and I know that it's not just us. Our son is here with us too, so we get
Mhm.
some we get to converse and do some activities with him as
Yep.
well. We wish that our daughter and our son-in-law and our grandson were with us, but it is what it is. So
You're gonna need a bigger house, Don. Put them
yeah,
all in
exactly. You're
there.
right about
Yeah,
that. You're
yeah.
right about that.
And trust me, with the three boys at home, the house keeps getting smaller and smaller. Of
I
course, my
bet it
dog,
is.
my dogs keep getting bigger and bigger. That doesn't help either. So, well, in your role at work, I really want to talk to you about that in terms of like the food supply chain and that kind of stuff. How have you seen your responsibilities at work change? Since January, February now, and into March, April, May.
Yeah, it's normally we plan a lot more. Normally we have meetings set up in advance, and we have um, getting together with customers to help them with solutions of their food service needs, and not just food service, but um, in general training and food safety and all this other kind of stuff that we help them with on a daily basis. And that kind of all went out the window as soon as the state of Michigan was locked down. And it's been more since then. It's been more about finding something that'll work.
Okay.
Because overnight the supply chain changed. Um, there was no time to allow for a huge ramp down.
Hmm.
There was unfortunately, a lot of product that was thrown away, both by distributors, manufacturers, and consumers as well.
Hmm.
So it was a interesting time, and the world flipped on a dime. And since then, it's been all about recovering and trying to now predict what consumers are going to buy today versus what they bought 3 months ago. And it's, I'm sure you're seeing the same thing when you're in Myers and Kroger and everything else. The shelves are bare,
Hmm.
and it's more about flexibility right now. You've got to, there's enough food available for
Yeah.
everybody to eat. It may not be what you wanted, but it'll probably be what you need.
What you said, you talked about having to find workarounds. Can you think of one of the more creative workarounds you came up with to help fill a need in a different way?
Well, overnight, it went from, people were buying cases of chicken and cases of beef and cases of that and doing a lot of preparation, right?
Right.
Now they don't have the people to do that preparation
Okay.
because of the concerns about COVID. So in a lot of our, well, first of all, restaurants closed down, but in a lot of our healthcare and even schools, because of concerns of contracting the virus, they were working on skeleton crews. So we actually, one of the things we did was for schools, we put together meal kits, and this was the fastest I've ever seen anything created out of nothing, and it came out of an idea by somebody on my team, and we went into production within a couple of weeks, and since then we've sold over 10,000 school meal kits, which have 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches for school
Okay.
school children.
And that's like for kids that normally would get breakfast and lunch at school, they can go pick up a week's worth of food and go.
Correct.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And in the beginning, some schools were doing 7 days, but it became too much to distribute twice a week. So by putting these kits together, we've allowed them to distribute only once a week and have everything that they need except for milk, and then they get the milk from the dairy companies, and it works out. So
Sure.
there's a lot of milk out there. If you need milk, you can get
Is there? Okay.
There's plenty.
That's good. That's good. We're an egg family lately. I had to pick up 5 dozen eggs yesterday because that was the biggest pack they had. And every time we turn around, we buy the 18 in a box, and even that just sort of evaporates. But what do you see as the biggest needs right now in our food supply chain?
Well, most consumers that have been in a grocery store or tried to order are having a rough time getting proteins right now, and that's what happened. So when the country started to close down, there was cattle, there was chickens that weren't being used, and in some cases they were destroyed. And unfortunately, many of these plants where proteins are processed also had high incidence of COVID.
Right.
And so even with social distancing in place, they don't have enough workers. So a lot of them have gone from 1 shift to 2, but then they have to reduce their workforce by maybe even a third or down to a third of what they used to. So they're not able to produce as much as they would have prior to COVID. And therefore there's always a need out there for more protein. Now there's enough flexibility, there's enough out there that everybody will get fed again, and it's gotten a lot better over the last couple weeks.
Sure.
But the first few weeks, things were really, really scarce, and people were hoarding too. Which tends to happen.
We certainly saw the toilet paper stories early on in all of this.
Yes, and memes on Facebook. There's no shortage of them. As it relates to toilet paper. So
this is true. This is true.
One of my favorite memes, and I post one every day on my team meetings. My favorite meme was, think Back to the Future was Christopher Lloyd's character saying to Marty McFly, Marty, whatever you do, don't go back to 2020.
No kidding. Who would want to? This is just,
that was one of my favorite. And there's been a lot of good ones, a lot of creative folks out there. But so the manufacturers have been able to adapt and spin on a dime, pivot, if you will.
Sure.
And are trying to catch up now. And we're seeing a much more smooth food supply chain right now than we did a few weeks ago. But we've got a long ways to go. And there's still going to be some angst, and you're seeing high prices. Ground beef is $4 to $5 a pound now, where it used to be 2 something not too long ago.
Right.
And really any kind of beef, but ground beef is one of the biggest things that we buy as a nation. And availability, again, because of some of the challenges in the plants, there's just not enough of certain things out there. But as a whole, there's enough food for everybody.
Right.
And it's got to be flexible.
We could all soak some pinto beans and do a little vegetarian every now and then too. That probably wouldn't be all bad for the food supply chain. Wouldn't necessarily be bad for the environment, and probably wouldn't be bad for our bodies. So you might
true.
Might
Absolutely,
be a little bit there.
True.
Yeah. Well, what gives you hope these days? Where do you see hope?
Oh, Pastor, it's people tend to focus, unfortunately, on some of the negativity that's been out there, but there's so much hope. There's so much so many human interest stories that I've seen throughout this process that
Mhm.
have given Cindy and I hope, and we talk about it every day, and we do try to focus on those things. Just you don't have to look for it. Watch a little bit of the news, read a little bit, and you'll see story after story of somebody who has very little going way out of their way to
Mhm.
help others who have nothing.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I could name a few stories, but we've all seen them, and
Mhm.
um, that that's just, that's being human, right?
Yep.
And it certainly gives me hope amidst all the chaos that's been around us. And I love to see those stories, and some of them are even small children just giving up their piggy bank money to help support something else,
Sure.
and those that need. There's been no shortage of volunteers to pass out meals for schools that don't have enough help to do so. I mean, story after story after story, and I just love to see it. And we've all known from the very beginning, this too shall pass, right?
Right. Right.
We've all known that. Now, an older guy like myself, I've been through stuff like this before, and either people even older than me that have been through World War II, which
Mhm.
may have been one of the worst times in our history, right? But this is nothing but a blip, hopefully just a blip on the radar, and at some point we're going to get back to some sense of what the new norm is going to be. So
I think we're certainly all looking forward to that. It
for sure.
sounds like in terms of food these days, we need to be creative cooks, but there's plenty. You don't have to worry about the chain. It just might not be the link that you were hoping for. Might have to be a little
Yeah, just be
creative in what you do.
flexible. Just
Yeah.
be flexible, and don't yell at your person at Kroger because they don't have the chicken that you want. Just take the chicken that they have,
Yeah.
and kind of move forward. Right, that's really going to be our supply chain moving forward for the
Mhm.
foreseeable future. We have, as Americans, we become accustomed to, man, I want this widget, I want that, I want pickled kumquats, and all these
Mhm.
other exotic type of foods that we've grown accustomed to, and a lot of the stuff's not going to be there because, first of all, in order to catch up on production, they need to produce the things that are moving the greatest.
Right.
And what that means is they're not going to be producing the things that don't move much at all. So
Mhm.
some of the delicacies and the extra special things that we've grown accustomed to in certain households, they're going to be gone for a while because there's not enough manpower to produce everything that we used to produce 3 months ago. Um,
Yeah.
we and manufacturers can't get burned on the build up. They all got burned on the ramp down.
Sure. Sure. That makes
They
sense.
can't take it on both ends.
Well, and then you got to think about where stuff's being produced around the world too, because I'm look at the food, the stickers on my food, and I can tell it didn't all come from California or Florida or
That's
Michigan
correct.
or Ohio. It came from all over the world. So, and that's going to be
Correct.
limited too, because their transportation is limited, and we hear plenty of COVID cases all over the world globally. So, my last question for you then, and I asked everybody, is where are you finding joy in these days? Where are you personally finding joy?
Yeah. You know what? We haven't been able to wrap our arms around our grandson yet, but we
Hmm.
do. We do get to FaceTime with almost on a daily basis. He seems like he's growing right before our very eyes, and at that age, he's going to turn 3 later this summer, and
Hmm.
they do grow so fast, right? And
Sure.
and just to be able to spend time with them, because we're very close with Lauren and Kyle and our grandson, and of course Chris lives with us, so that's easy. But
Right.
and I see stories and friends of mine going through the same struggles about just trying to stay connected,
Hmm.
to family that you don't live with. And
Right.
I've seen our neighbor across the street. They do that. Her parents come over and they sit in the yard and they're social distance. They all have their masks on,
Sure.
and they enjoy a beverage together and sometimes a meal while
Yeah.
the kids are playing in the background, and they're observing everything that's within the CDC guidelines.
Yep.
And so they're being creative, and that's what we have to do, right?
Yep.
We've got to use our minds a little bit more, and but we're seeing joy in a lot of different ways. Like I said, some of these stories related to people giving of themselves during
Hmm.
this time frame and doing exactly what Jesus would want you to do.
Absolutely.
Um, and I've seen way more of those kind of stories than I've seen, the other crap that's going on. That
Yep.
we can gravitate that to that if we want to, I choose not to. I choose to
hear
look
you.
for the joy and the hope and all the good things that are going on around us. And hopefully that we get some good stretch of warm weather. This thing dies down for a while and we can get to some sense of normalcy soon. So.
Well, we can hope. Well, thank you, Don. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your words of encouragement and hope and knowledge about our food chain and supplies. And thank you. God's peace be with you.
Yeah, peace be with you and good to see you all, folks. I look forward to celebrating with you sometime real soon. Have a great
Absolutely.
rest of the day and talk to you soon.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.